Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your mayor to bring the R.C.M.P in on the insider trading and the threats on Abbotsford. I showed you a podcast a few days ago of the city councillors in kORKY Neufeld supporting the councillors that he wants in M.L.A. And I showed you Mark Warkentine, Simon Gibson, and they weren't supposed to be there. Caroline Finlay is the head of the BC Conservatives, and she's in for trouble, and she don't recognize this. By kORKY Neufeld showing and only supporting one councillor, that's unfair. This will send ripple effects against kORKY. It'll mean people like Gurpreet Rai in the South Asian community will then tell the South Asians now not to support kORKY because of that unfairness. It'll also send Suki Dami, a big heavy hitter, to say no, kORKY done wrong by going behind M.L.A. He should have stayed out of it or balanced all the councillors out, and he didn't do it because there was an agenda here. That agenda was also kORKY was involved in that agenda, and it needed to come to an end. It's unfair, it's insider trading, and it's not right. M.L.A. said he wanted to be a voice for the community. And there could be a change with M.L.A. if he's elected. You don't need to be elected and leave a law firm what makes good money to become a voice for the community. And it's totally unfair. And then we got Barty Sandhu's South Asians too. And they were promoting M.L.A. over Dave Sidhu because they're done with Dave Sidhu. And these pictures show you why R.C.M.P ain't taking photos with Dave Sidhu. But insider trading had the Abbotsford police covering investigations and carrying out threats for an elite mob of Abbotsford. And it took place on Abbotsford residents that had their homes damaged, and this was to cover it all up so Henry could embezzle that money to bring jobs next to him to bring lifts to his land. This is one of the largest criminal rings, I believe, in Canada set up because it's elite politicians. And it was to get it set up was in Abbotsford because of the private police. You could run it real big. And then these politicians would clean the police force that they were using for muscle. And you saw it every time I did a podcast in front of the development. So Henry went into the city and he set it up for himself with his brother on the police board. His son is approving officer, and Mark Warkentine is loyal friends. The question to my BC Conservatives and Dallas Brody, it sure looked like David Eby wanted to get the money out of BC taxpayers, in my opinion, so he set it up in Abbotsford too. He sent the city manager here, Peter Speranese, then he handpicked the police chief out of Victoria. And the Victoria chief coming over here from Victoria knows nothing about this community or its balance. The only reason you would pick him and send him in here is saying, I'm going to dump a lot of money into Abbotsford through these dirty contacts in Abbotsford, and I need it out in envelopes like the 71 million out of Barrowtown with no criminal investigations why Jake's contracting hauled dirt and sand in, dirt and sand out, and gravel. And then the money, 500 million to move the ag processing plant. So it sure looks like David Eby sent his team in here and said, go take over Abbotsford so I can dump the money in off of BC taxpayers. And then, in my opinion, it looks like it. So I'm standing here on Dave Sidhu's property on Tracy Road, and the city spies told me again today that they were told to hurry up and rush this process, get the foundation in quickly, and there's more leniency and sympathy to keep it. So why are I here? Why do I show you this on Tracy Road on Dave Sidhu? Dave Sidhu is a sitting city council. He used insider trading with his buddy R.C.M.P to lift the land, and they owed Dave Sidhu for blocking the election. That we do know, and using the newspaper. And you can see they distanced themselves from Dave Sidhu by the party at M.L.A. And you can see that. So they have to pay Dave Sidhu back, and they need to get him out of the way. If we yank the money back under criminal investigations and insider trading, the $6 million, the zoning, the changing, and everything else, and putting it ag land, not also to hurt Vitalis and the Vanderpoels, I agree, but they were still involved in it. They still knew better. There's lots of land. We need to go after that, and we need the R.C.M.P. By going after the $6 million, Dave Sidhu then will turn evidence and cooperate because he lost the kitty that he was promised. And he'll start telling on R.C.M.P. He'll start telling on Henry Brown the decisions and how they used them and everything. And this is how the law gets cooperation to bring charges and criminally go after guys like Henry Brown, Ed Fast, and Mike DeYoung. And that's what we need to do. So that is why I stand here and say we have to pull the money off. But David Eby looks like he's giving it a clear pass because he was involved in it, and it has to be, because you knew as the Premier that this is the council's property with his dad, and you knew it was hand-picked, and you knew that it should have never been done, and it wasn't down by the U.S. border. So let me give you an example. On Farmer Road, you could have picked the lot. There's a lot of empty gravel land there. You got the industrial there, you got the water, and you got the infrastructure, and you got the commercial zoning there. And they could have did that there, but they didn't, because that then wouldn't go into their hands to get it. And they give this as a sniff of the lift. So they used a big contractor like Vitalis and figured nobody would go after him, we'll get him in. And he bought the land for way more. We have to go after it. We have to go after it, whether it gets done or it doesn't get done. And I am warned Vitalis, and I've made a podcast to Vitalis, that this ain't going away. Getting this building done, you're going to lose it because it's insider trading. David Eby ain't going to give you a pass. I'm going to tell you, running for mayor, David Eby can go back into Victoria, and he can stay in back in Victoria, and he can run Victoria, and he doesn't look like he's doing a good bloody job of it. But bringing money in that caused corruption and threats on residents and used my police force to go after people and not let them speak freely on the zoning and everything. Pretty soon the searches have to come into this money. And Carney said it the best. Carney said it the best. Follow the money and you'll find the organized crime. And with Carney's information, this is what Abbotsford did. But we have to make sure if we pull this money back off of Dave Sadu and Andy Sadu, we'll get the cooperation, we'll get them to turn evidence, and they'll tell. And you can see that by them going in and supporting Amric Moran. So why is it so blocked? They sucked up to kORKY Neufeld. The establishment did, and they knew that we need to block kORKY Neufeld. But kORKY Neufeld put himself in harm's way by only supporting one city council and not staying neutral like Bruce Bamman is and Rianne Gasper. You could take a picture with each other. You watch, I'll take a picture with Bruce, with Soupman, and everywhere. But they should not be endorsing you because it's unfair. And when it also hurts you when you got to run as an M.L.A, as an M.P, because they'll say, no, you supported Amric Moran, and Amric Moran lost, and you wouldn't help me, and you should have stayed neutral. And they'll pull it from kORKY Neufeld. That's why I told you it's easy to unseat kORKY Neufeld now for 1BC or David Eby, and we're going to do that. But as Abbotsford residents, we have to go after this money. And we pull it back off of Dave Sadu and Andy Sadu, they'll get mad. If I lose that money, Dave Sadu will say, I'm going to tell on you, all of you, and bring the whole house down. And that's what we're going to do. And we got to spank Vitalis, and we got to spank them really big. Right now, they got protection by David Eby, and they're rushing this, and they're zoning it, and they're going through on it, and everything else. And we need to make sure, because it sure looks like David Eby is taking all the money off the BC taxpayers, dumping it into Abbotsford because it's so corrupt, and walking it out the back door. And he has yet accounted for the $71 million that R.C.M.P and council were embezzling to Jake's Contracting by hauling sand in and sand out and gravel in and gravel out. Remember, I want to make Abbotsford aware of this. Henry Brown took the law in his own hands. He used the law, Abbotsford police officers, the top of them, and his political politicians to make sure he didn't serve a day in jail or go before our courts and our justice system to be punished. And these guys went out there and protected him, and they figured that we had enough political power and we knew enough people, we could do this for Henry Brown and Mike Sir. They took a gamble, and when you take a gamble, you always come up losing. That's why you never want to throw down and gamble. But I'm adamant, and I want to make it clear. Now, Dave Sadu's got protection because kORKY Neufeld's in there, and being an M.L.A, kORKY Neufeld won't call it out. And kORKY Neufeld knows that the $6-point-something million that Andy Sadu got here was a payout, and now a shush money, and now you can see Ross not taking any pictures with Dave Sadu. Ross and Dave Sadu were like this, and Dave Sadu walked R.C.M.P in. R.C.M.P couldn't do it. And now they're trying to brand Amric Moran and that party with the other day with Mark Warkentine, Simon Gibson, all conflict of interest. This is why I make sure I run these things, all conflicts of interest. But also Caroline Finlay has got now an M.L.A. that's in very bad trouble. And I'm going to tell you, them South Asians are going to pick up on it. And KORKY Neufeld ain't going to get nothing. And Gurpreet Rai, I'm asking you to run. I'm asking you to run for the South Asians. And we're going to call this us. I'm asking Suki Dami to run for council for the South Asians, Bharti Sandhu and everyone. We need the R.C.M.P. And tell them R.C.M.P. walk into Abbotsford. We're not going to stop this. And we need the R.C.M.P. because the private police got owned and they were covering it up. Colin Watts knows this, and this is where Colin Watts should be. And tomorrow, I wonder who's at the parade. If it's going to be dumb Colin Watts and his top investigators so Abbotsford can have a good laugh at him, or are they going to send the young recruits out there because we don't want our face up there. We don't want anybody to see us. But this is where good police forces come because it was insider trader. I'm live. Abbotsford, British Columbia, Tracy Road. KORKY Neufeld.